What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the show, Abelson's College Football Show. We are back, episode 2, if you want to call it an episode. But we are back. We are officially 9 days away at the time of this recording from college football. Yeah, I know it's only week 0, but it is real college football games, real meaningful games, and I am so excited for the season to get here. It's going to be an incredible season. These last couple seasons with the new format, NIL era, transfer portal have just been absolutely electric. So I'm excited to see another season unfold. Today's episode, we are going to react to the AP polls preseason top 25. If you haven't seen last week's episode, we went through my top 25. We did a full breakdown of the top 25 and who I put where and why I put them there. Today, we're going to be reacting to the AP poll, the AP polls preseason top 25. And we're just going to kind of do a little comparing and contrasting versus their AP poll versus my preseason poll, seeing, what differences are, what some similarities were. So that's what we're going to be doing today. And then we're going to do a little bit of some preseason guessing. We are going to do some conference championship predictions. We're going to go through all the major four of the conferences and Power Four conferences and kind of just pick who I think is going to come out of that conference, and then we're going to end it with a little hot take meter. I got a few questions that I asked this week. Um, some hot takes. These aren't really like crazy hot takes, that ends up on hot take whatever that Instagram page is, but these are just some kind of maybe more than lukewarm hot takes that could happen but aren't likely to happen, and we're just going to kind of give like a ranking 1 to 5 on how likely I think it is to actually happen. So we're going to be in and out today. Not really a crazy episode, but before we get into it, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, share. We are here all the time talking all things college football. So let's get into it. Yeah. So the AP preseason poll is out. Again, I made a little spiel about this last week where people just complain about the preseason polls and how it doesn't matter and why are we even ranking teams? We're ranking them because it gives us something to talk about. It gives us something to talk about, and it gives us kind of like a baseline to start the season. Yes, does it have some biasness? Yes, it does. Yes, does it kind of shape some um unreal some expectations and some prejudgments of these teams? Yes, it does. But I think the AP poll, the preseason poll specifically, is fun to talk about. I think it's cool to see, where other people kind of gauge where they have these teams and why they have these teams here. Um, so yeah, we're gonna get into it. At number 1, the preseason poll, AP preseason poll, Ohio State is at number 1, Oregon at number 2, Georgia at number 3, Notre Dame at number 4, Texas at 5, Indiana at 6, Miami at 7, Texas A&M at 8, Ole Miss at 9, Oklahoma at 10, LSU at 11, Texas Tech at 12, 13 Bama, 14 USC, 15, or I guess 15 is BYU. USC and BYU got, I think, the same number of votes, but I think USC is 14 and BYU is 15. Michigan is 16. Washington is 17. Penn State is 18. At 19, we got SMU, 20, Tennessee, 21, Utah, Iowa 22, Houston at 23, Louisville at 24, and Missouri at 25. So right off the bat, I think what surprised me the most with this ranking was Ohio State at number 1. Not the fact that they were just number 1, but that they were like head and shoulders number 1. I think like out of like the 70, the 69, 70-ish votes, um, out of all the AP voters, I'm pretty sure like 40 of them had Ohio State at number 1. And not to say, because again, we did my preseason ranking and I had Ohio State at number 3. Not to say that Ohio State isn't the number 1 overall team in the country. I said I had Oregon, but I said between Oregon, Notre Dame, and Ohio State, if any of those teams started out number 1, it was well deserved and justified. I didn't have any problem with any of those teams. So it's not the fact that Ohio State's number one. It's the fact that they were like head and shoulders number one. They were like miles ahead of like the second most team that got the team that got the second most first place votes. And that was just a little bit surprising because a team like Oregon or Notre Dame, I think those three teams, it's literally like neck and neck between all those teams. Like I do not see Ohio State as miles better than, Oregon or Notre Dame. So that was kind of like the first kind of like shocking thing was just how many first place votes Ohio State got. My second reaction was the SEC. No SEC team got a first place vote. I'm just gonna leave that there. I I didn't vote. I didn't have a vote. So that's not my doing. But no SEC team had a single first place vote. Granted, the SEC did have the most overall teams in the top 25. I think they had 9 teams that made the top 25, but not any of them got a first place vote. And to go along with the fact that an SEC team hasn't played for the title in the last 3 years, I think that just kind of goes to show that the playing fields are starting to level. Obviously, I still think the SEC is, you know, you can still say that they're the best conference, but the Big Ten is obviously like 1B if SEC is 1A. I think it's pretty even. I think obviously the Big Ten has the top teams, but the SEC I think has more depth. Um, but again, that just goes to show that the perception around the country is that the SEC just they're starting to slip. The playing field is starting to level, and these other conferences, specifically the Big Ten, is starting to catch, if not exceed them. But that was another shocker. That was another surprising thing. Um, what else? I was a little surprised that Texas was at 5, though. That Georgia was at 3. Really, first and foremost, I was surprised that Georgia was at 3. I had them at 5, and I definitely thought Notre Dame would have been ranked above Georgia just because of what Notre Dame kind of brings back. Not that Georgia doesn't bring back a talented team, but I think Notre Dame is like tops of the country, like, top 3, 5 team when it comes to, they might be number 1, actually. They legitimately might be number 1 when it comes to returning production in terms of the number of starts that are coming back this year. So I was a little surprised by that. But again, when it comes to the top 5, I don't think there's that much separation between Ohio State, Oregon, Georgia, Notre Dame, and Texas. Really, the top 7. I said this last week between Ohio State, Oregon, Georgia, Notre Dame, Texas, Indiana, Miami. I think it's so close between those teams, so close. If you want to put Miami at, I don't think they would deserve to be like number 1 or 2, but if Miami was number 3, I wouldn't be mad about that. If Indiana was number 1, if Indiana was number 2, if Indiana was number 4, I would be fine with that. If Texas was number 1, I'd be fine with that. It's like the margins are thin when it comes to that like top 7 team. I think any one of those teams can win the national championship. I think one of those teams will win the national championship. Um, but yeah. What else? Alabama at 13. So in my rankings, I did have Alabama at 12. So this falls in line with what I think, but two things can be true at once. I can think that Alabama is the 12th, 13th best team in the country, but I can also just be kind of surprised that they are actually ranked there. Um, I think this is the first time in like 10 years or something that Alabama started the preseason poll outside of the top 10. I think that just goes to kind of show like the perception of Alabama, whether it's justifiable or not, but there is an obvious step back that they've taken. I mean, it's just obvious. They missed the playoff in Kalen DeBoer's first year. They felt like they barely squeaked in last year, even though to their credit, they did win a playoff game. It felt like they barely got by, and that, once they played a real team like Indiana, they got their doors blown off. But just to see them there is a little surprising. Um, it's obviously they have a quarterback battle going on right now between Keelan Russell and Austin Mack. Word on the streets, or they're saying that it is kind of favoring Keelan Russell. And I have seen some reports that Keelan Russell has a chance to be the best quarterback that has come out of Alabama, you know? And that's I mean, it's weird with Alabama because Alabama, they have just years of dominance, years of excellence. But when it comes to the quarterback room, like the quarterback room has they've always had like good like college players, but it hasn't really translated to the NFL. Like Bryce Young was the first quarterback to win the Heisman in Alabama history. And that's like Bryce Young. Like he's a good quarterback. He was a great college quarterback. He's starting to show potential in the NFL, but that's just kind of crazy that he was the first quarterback to win the Heisman. Um, but yeah, they're saying that Keelan Russell has a chance to be the best quarterback that's come through Alabama. He was the number two player in the country. I think the number two quarterback in the country when he came out, and he gives what we haven't really seen with Alabama a lot in their history outside of like Jalen Hurts. We haven't really seen kind of like that dual threat type of. He's not a true dual threat, but he is an athlete and he can use his feet. And some of the throws that he's been making in fall camp have been amazing. So it's not official yet, it hasn't been decided yet, but they say that they're leaning towards Keelan Russell. And if they do pick Keelan Russell, I do think the upside for Keelan Russell, a Keelan Russell Alabama led team, is higher than Austin Mack. Austin Mack is an older guy. He has more. I wouldn't even say experience because he hasn't really played. He was sitting at Washington. He played, one game in the Rose Bowl last year after Ty Simpson got hurt. Uh, but I do think there's more upside if Keelan Russell is the starter, just because again, he kind of gives you that extra dynamic ability with his legs. So but yeah, Alabama at 12, that's just it's just wild to see, man. It's just wild to see. Let's see what else. Um there wasn't really a lot of like major surprises. Like my preseason ranking is pretty close to not it's pretty close to what they have. Like I think the only team that they have that I don't have is Missouri. They have Missouri at 25. I don't have Missouri ranked at 25. I have Virginia Tech, but they have Missouri. They have okay, I will say they do have Michigan pretty low compared to where I have them. I have Michigan as a top 10 team at number 10. They have Michigan at 16. Um, I am just a little higher on Michigan than I was these last, couple years. I think Kyle Whittingham is going to kind of take them to that next level. That next level might not be winning the national championship, but I think that next level could be making the playoffs, going from a 9-3 team that misses the playoffs to a 10-2, maybe 11-1 team that kind of sneaks in or just gets into the playoffs. I think his coaching style, the toughness he brings, just the consistency and kind of like that grown up in the room feel, that experience, I think will help Michigan a long way. But really, none of it matters if Bryce Underwood doesn't take that next step as a player, which I do think he will. He was a true freshman, obviously, back there. You saw at times where it felt like he was a true freshman, or was he a true freshman last year? Yeah, I think he was. Yeah, he was a true freshman last year. But there was times where you could see, like, hey, like this guy is a true freshman. But I do think he will take that next step. I really do. So I'm a little higher on Michigan than the AP poll is. We're pretty much about the same with Ole Miss. They have them at 9. I have them at 11. Um, I think Ole Miss has a high floor, but I don't. I'm just not feeling like a high ceiling to them. I just don't know what it is. They're bringing back their two studs, Kewan Lacey and Trinidad Chambliss, but I just don't know why. I feel like they're not going to just go 11-1 and make it into playoffs and have this deep run where they're on the doorsteps of a national championship. I'm just not seeing it, dude. I'm just not seeing it. Um, I think the AP poll has USC at 14. I have US or 14 or 15, whatever you want to decipher that as. They have I have them at 15. They had BYU right under USC. I have BYU right under USC. I have Penn State at 17. They have Penn State at 18. I got SMU at 20. They got SMU at 19. It's pretty much like pretty close. 23. I got Houston. They have Houston at 23. I have Houston at 24. They got Utah at 21. I got them at 23. So my poll is pretty on par with what they have on their side. One more thing they have higher than I do is Texas A&M. I have Texas A&M at 14. They have Texas A&M at 8. So it seems like they're a little bit higher on Texas A&M than I am. Even last year, Texas A&M was a good team, but they benefited from a very easy SEC draw. I think out of the 8 SEC games they played, 7 of them were playing against the bottom half SEC teams, and they have a much tougher schedule this year. So I think you might see an opportunity or you might see a situation where they lose a couple more games than they didn't last year. Again, on TikTok, CFB Abe with 2 E's, CFBABEE. We did a breakdown of every single team's, basically every single FBS team's, or Power 4 team at least, college football schedule, and we gave a record prediction. I'm pretty sure I had Texas A&M at 9-3. I can't exactly remember who all the 3 losses were to, but I did have them at 9-3, and I think that would that would pretty much leave them out of the playoffs. I don't think Texas A&M as a 9-3 team would make the playoffs. But that is where I had them. But yeah, that is the AP poll, man. Again, I don't really see a whole lot of, you know, discrepancies. But yeah, so we will end the AP talk at that. Next, we're going to just kind of break down or just kind of give our prediction of each Power 4 conference championship winner, the teams that I think are going to win the conference. I will start with the ACC in Miami just because I think that's the easiest. But to be fair, the way I felt about Miami and the ACC winning the ACC this year is how I felt about Clemson and them winning the ACC last year. I literally said when going into the season, I was like, I just do not see a way that Clemson does not win the conference this year. Like I didn't see. I'm pretty sure I had them going like 12-0 or like 11-1. And I just didn't think there was a chance that they could lose. And what happened? They absolutely stunk. They lost 2 or 3 games within their first 4, and their season was over after their second game. I will say I don't see that with Miami just because those two programs are just kind of going in opposite directions. Clemson is just having a steady decline, and Miami is just having a steady incline. Um, and I just think last year, especially the way their season went with how they started out great, they lost those couple games, but then they made the playoffs and they turned that into a national championship runner-up season. I think that's going to kind of put all that, oh, Miami loses these games they shouldn't lose. I think it's going to put all that to rest. I think these guys are going to take that and come in motivated and just kind of dominate. And I mean, they have a very, very easy schedule. I think it's like I think let's go look at their schedule. They have pretty much a two game season. I think or they do play Notre Dame, but outside of Notre Dame, it's maybe SMU, I think. Let's go take a look at their schedule. Yeah, they play Clemson. I think Clemson will be okay this year. I do not think Clemson is gonna like win like 6 or 7 games. I could see Clemson maybe winning 8 games, maybe 9. I actually do think Clemson is gonna have a pretty decent bounce back year, but yeah, outside of the Notre Dame game, it's literally Notre Dame. Virginia Tech could be sneaky towards the end of the year. Florida State, I'm not high on, but it's really just like Notre Dame and Clemson, like, and then maybe Virginia Tech. So it's hard for me to see Miami not winning the conference championship. Um, but they haven't won it since they've been in the ACC. in the last 23 years they've been in the ACC. So who knows? Who knows? But I do think Miami will be crowned ACC Conference Championship winners for the first time since joining the conference. As for the Big 12, I do think it will be Texas Tech. I do, even with Texas Tech not getting Brendan Sorsby, I do still think they are the best team in that conference. Um, and I do think that they will. I do think that they are going to win the conference. Obviously, BYU is going to give them a run for the money. I think Houston. I think Houston is a dark horse. I think they could very well find their way in that conference championship game. But I just think Texas Tech has rised above the rest in that conference. They are recruiting at a high level. I think they have going into next year. I'd have to go back to look to make sure, but I'm pretty sure they have two of the top. I definitely know it's top 10. I know they have two of the top 10 players. I think one of them is the number one player in the country, if I'm not mistaken. But they're recruiting at at a high level right now. They're hitting the transfer portal at a high level. And Will Hammond, I think Will Hammond is a good player. Again, we talked about in the last episode when I was talking about Texas Tech and my rankings. Will Hammond is a good player. He came into that Utah game on the road last year as a true freshman and led them to a victory. Led them to victory. Like he has the talent. It's just a matter of if he comes in this season healthy. But if he is healthy, I think Texas Tech is going to. I think they're going to win it, man. I really do. Um, and let's go with the Big Ten. As for the Big Ten, but this is where it starts to get tricky, man. This is where it starts to get tricky. I think there's a couple teams who are going to be in contention. Obviously, Ohio State, they're always in contention. Oregon, Indiana is going to have a say. Michigan could have a say. USC could have a say. Although, as you know, certified USC hater, I do not think USC is going to win the Big Ten this year. But it's I my heart says Oregon, but my head is saying Ohio State. But I am going to go with Oregon just because of Ohio State's schedule. Ohio State, I think they have the toughest schedule in the country. Because of their schedule is why I think Oregon will win the conference. Um, Also, Oregon is my number one team in my preseason, but I do think Oregon will win the conference. But again, I think it's going to be pretty close because again, Ohio State's schedule, they play Texas. That's a non-conference game, but it is still Texas. They play Illinois. They play Iowa at Iowa. They play Indiana at Indiana. They play USC at USC. They play Oregon, and then they play Michigan. So that's up. And then the other games is Nebraska. They could be pretty tricky. I don't think they'll lose, but Northwestern, they had a pretty decent season last year. Um, that's a tough schedule, man. That is such a tough schedule. Their conference games: Indiana, USC, Ohio, or yeah, their conference games alone are Indiana, USC, Oregon, and Michigan. Like that's tough, man. You play four of the top 5 best teams in the conference. Like you lose 2 of those games, you're out of the race. Like you're not. I don't think you're going to make the Big Ten championship game if you're not. If you lose 2 games, yeah, with tiebreakers and stuff, you know, shit could hit the fan and stuff could happen. But I don't think if you lose 2 games, you can make the Big Ten championship game, especially when you got other teams who are going to be in the mix as well. Um, so yeah, because I have Ohio State going 10-2 in my preseason ranking. I had them going 10-2. So that could be them losing 1 conference game and maybe 1 to Texas, or that could be them beating Texas and them losing 2 conference games. You don't know, but I just don't think. I just think Oregon, man. I think Oregon wins their second Big Ten championship game in 3 years. So that was my pick for the Big Ten. As for the SEC, just like with the Big Ten, my heart is saying Texas, but my head is saying Georgia. And this time we're gonna go with my head. We're gonna go with the Georgia Bulldogs. I think they win their third straight SEC championship. Um, it really just comes down to the fact that I think it's gonna come down to those two teams. I think it is. Um, yeah, again, Ole Miss could have a say, Texas A&M could have a say, Alabama, Oklahoma. I think Oklahoma is going to be a sneaky. I think Oklahoma could very well finish like third in the conference, but I do think it's going to come down to Georgia and Texas. And if it does come down to Georgia and Texas, I'm not a guy who likes using like past seasons to past results to decide future outcomes. But it's just hard. Like it's just I genuinely think Kirby Smart he just out coaches. He just out coaches I am blanking. Steve Sarkisian. Kirby Smart just out coaches Steve Sarkisian every single time they play, man. Every single time they play. The SEC championship game a couple years ago, they're playing the backup quarterback, at the time, Gunnar Stockton. Doesn't matter. Georgia handles them. Then the SEC champ, then they go to Texas. They play Texas at Texas. And what happens? Georgia handles them. Didn't even have a great offense show. I'm pretty sure Carson Beck threw like 2 interceptions. It did not matter. They still won that game 30-15. Defense outclassed them. Last year, Texas makes their way to Sanford Stadium, to Georgia. You think it might be different. Texas, after early season slump, they were starting to find their groove at that time. Did not matter. Georgia just outclassed them. Kirby Smart out coached Steve Sarkisian. Like that kickoff return where he did the onside kick and got it. Like it was just a coaching masterclass. It's just hard for me to think that Steve Sarkisian is just gonna wake up one day and be a better coach than Kirby Smart. So I think when the chips are in the middle of the table, I do think I have to go with Georgia. I have to go with Georgia beating Texas. And I do think Georgia will win their third straight SEC championship game. So yeah, that's who I have as the Power 4 conference championship winners. SEC, we got Georgia. Big 10, we got Oregon. ACC, we have Miami. Big 12, we have Texas Tech. So yeah, let's get to this next segment. So I don't know if I explained it the best early in the episode, but I just have a few questions that I have, a few hot takes that I have. I asked, my group chat earlier this week to all send me just some kind of hot takes that they have on the season, and I'm just gonna kind of give them a ranking or just a rating, maybe 1 to 5 on how hot I think it is or how likely I think it is to happen. 1 being it's not gonna happen. 5 being I think it will happen. Um, so yeah, the first one is Ohio State doesn't make the playoffs. This is a tricky one, man. This is a tricky one because, again, like I was saying earlier, I just keep going back to that Ohio State schedule, man. I keep going back to that schedule. I really do. But even if Ohio State goes 9-3, because their schedule's so tough, if Ohio State goes 9-3, they definitely have a chance of still making the playoffs. So I think I'm gonna give it a 2.5. I'm gonna give it a 2.5 because Ohio State, just thinking about Ohio State not making the playoffs, especially a 12 team. I know they missed the 14 playoff, but that was 4 teams. Them not being a top 10 team in the country, it just sounds inconceivable. It really does. Like Ohio State is the standard of college football. They are the standard of consistency. They are the standard of just year in and year out excellence in college football. And I'm not particularly fond of Ohio State. I'm not fond of Ohio State. I'm not too fond of Ryan Day. My buddy Skip, he is the biggest Ohio State fan, and I just love to give him shit and crap all the time about Ohio State, because Ohio State fans they can just be they can just let's not go there. But even with that though, I'm gonna give it a solid 2.5 because I could see a world where Ohio State loses 3 games, and just because the teams below them, kind of like a situation last year where there's just so many teams jumbled at the bottom trying to fight for those last few spots, that they could just be left out entirely if they lost 3 games. Because again, we just went to that schedule. They could lose to Texas. Like they could lose to Texas. Texas is going to be good this year. They could lose. They could lose to USC. Word around the street is Jade Mayava has improved immensely throughout the offseason. They could lose to Oregon. Oregon is my number 1 preseason team. They are the number 2 team in the AP poll. They could lose to Oregon. Iowa at home. We know what happened last time. Not last time they played Iowa at home, but we know what happened years back where they went into Iowa and they lost. That is a possibility. Iowa plays a tough style. They do. Michigan, the game. Kyle Whittingham. Somebody who hasn't been a part of the rivalry. He could come in just clear-headed and just not let the emotions get to him that game. Not let the rivalry get to him and beat Ohio State in the game. So there are definitely paths to Ohio State losing this year. So we're gonna put it at 2.5. I don't think it's gonna happen. I do think they make the playoffs. I do think they go 10-2, but that's definitely something to keep your eye on. Is Ohio State, if they lose that 3rd game, they could finish on that. They could finish on the outside losing. They could finish on the outside looking in. So okay, the next one is Notre Dame will lose 2 games and miss the playoffs again. We just saw it happen. I mean, we just saw it happen. Literally, what, the final rankings came out? Nah, they came out in December, but we did see it happen. But I think I'm going to give this one a 1. I'm going to give this one a 1. I'm not going to give it a 0 because it's college football. It's anything can really happen. It's college football. But I will give it a 1 because I just don't see it happening, man. Like, let's go through the schedule. They got Wisconsin. People are saying Wisconsin could be a sneaky Big Ten team this year, but that's something I have to see with Luke Fickell. I have to see it to believe it. I have to see the improvement with them for me to actually take Wisconsin seriously. But then they got Wisconsin, Rice, Michigan State. Wisconsin will be a win. Rice will be a win. Michigan State will be a win. Purdue will be a win. North Carolina will be a win. Stanford will be a win. BYU at Provo. That's a tough game. That's going to be a tough game. And again, credit to Notre Dame after the USC game got canceled because USC are a bunch of babies. They tried. They scheduled BYU on the road. That's going to be a tough game, but I think they win. I would not be surprised if they lost, but I do think they will win that game. Navy, Miami, coin flip game. They're going to be motivated, but Miami's going to be motivated too. For the sake of this, don't come at me, Notre Dame fans. For the sake of this question, I'm just going to chalk this up as a loss just for the sake of the question. That doesn't mean I think Notre Dame's going to lose. Again, I think that's a coin flip game. I think that can go either way. But just for the sake of this exercise, we're going to chalk that up as a loss. Boston College is a loss. SMU, that's going to be a pretty tough game. But at home, I think Notre Dame will be able to win that game. Syracuse, even with that would put them at 11-1. And because I do think with how pretty easy the schedule is, I do think it could be a situation we saw last year. Because they lost to 2 teams that made the playoffs last year, and they still got left out. If they lose 2 games this year, I highly doubt that it will be to 2 playoff teams. It could, but I don't think BYU, unless they were to just beat Texas Tech, I don't see them making the playoffs. And SMU, they are. I think they're going to be frisky. They're going to have a chance to compete, but I don't really see them making the playoffs. With this schedule, if they lose 2 games, I don't think they're going to make the playoffs. But again, I don't think they're going to lose 2 games. So I'm going to put that as a 1 on our, hot take meter. That's what we'll call it. We'll just call it hot take meter. We'll call it hot take meter. Next, we got Alabama will go 11-1. I am going to give that. I'm going to give that. What would we say? 1 isn't likely to happen. 5 is likely to happen. Um, that's a 0. That's a 0. I don't think. Actually, I did say earlier that you can't really do zeros in college football because anything can happen. I I I have to put that as 0, man. I have to put that as a 0. Um, no, we'll put it as a 1. We'll do a 1. I just because I'm just starting to think of. I'm just seeing Keelan Russell just popping onto the scene, just lighting things up, and you know, yeah, we'll we'll give it a 1. We'll give it a 1 because Alabama's schedule. They got Kentucky, Eastern Carolina. That's going to be a win. Kentucky. That's going to be a win. Florida State. That's going to be a win. South Carolina could be tough, but I do think that'll be a win. Mississippi, I think that'll be a win. Georgia, or Mississippi State will be a win. Georgia, I think that'll be a loss. Tennessee, that could very well be a loss. We knew what happened last time they went to Neyland. Texas A&M could be a loss. LSU could be a loss. Auburn, yeah, I got to put that as a 1. Again, 5 is likely to happen. 1 is not likely to happen. I don't think that's likely to happen. We're gonna put that as like a 0.5. We're gonna put that as like a 0.5. I'm not gonna go 0 because again, anything could happen, but I just don't think it's gonna happen. So again, we're gonna put that as 0.5. Next up, Darian Mensah will be an elite quarter. Darian Mensah will be the best quarterback in the country this year. Again, if 5 is likely to happen, I'm gonna put that as at a 3.5, 4. I'll put that as like I'll do a 3.75. 3.75. I think there is absolutely a chance Darian Mensah. And again, he's not getting talked about a lot. I don't know why. Like it's Julian Sayin, it's Dante Moore, Gunnar Stockton. I think he's underrated, but CJ Carr, Arch Manning. I'm not hearing a lot about Darian Mensah. This is a guy who was second in the country in passing last year at Duke. At Duke. And now you're telling me he's going down to Miami. He gets to throw behind that offensive line. He gets to throw to Cooper Barcade, his guy from Duke, and Malachi Toney. He gets to hand the ball off to Mark Fletcher. Again, behind that Mario Cristobal offensive line. Don't forget, they got the number 1 offensive tackle in the country last year, or in this recruiting class, incoming freshman, the number 1 offensive tackle. He's going to be starting. We know that Mario Cristobal offensive line. We know his history with offensive lines. We know it's going to be at the very worst good, good at least, like you're telling me he gets to throw to Malachi Toney, Cooper Barcade, and hand the ball off to Mark Fletcher. It's just like he has a chance of winning the Heisman. I think he has a real chance of winning the Heisman. We know he's going to stack the wins. It's just a matter of him performing it. Again, he was second in the country in passing last year at Duke. And now he upgraded the talent. He upgraded the coaching. He upgraded the line of scrimmage, upgraded the wide receiver group, upgraded the quarterback running back position. And he's just supposed to be worse than what he was last year. I don't know. I'm not really seeing it. So again, we're gonna put that as a 3.75 because again, this is a pretty stacked quarterback class. Arch Manning, CJ Carr, Dante Moore, Julian Sain, Darian Mensah, Marcel Reed, Trinidad Chambliss, John Mateer, Sam Levitt, Bryce Underwood. Like, there's a lot of talent this year. Josh Hoover, Indiana. Like, he's a guy not getting really talked about a lot. Like, there's a lot of quarterback talent this year. So it's going to be a fight for sure. It's going to be a fight getting to the top of that pecking order, but I definitely think Darian Mensah has a chance to be the number one quarter or the best quarterback in the country. I think he has a chance of winning the Heisman. I think he has a chance of being a Heisman finalist. So we're going to put that as a 3.75. Well, that is the last one. And that is it for this episode. Again, we are 9 days. I'm recording this on August 20th. We are 9 days away from week 0. Man, I'm so excited, man. So excited. So that's all it is for this episode. Next week's episode, I think we got games. We got games. So we're probably gonna put out a preview episode of some of the college football games for week 0. We are going to That's one thing we are going to do. Last year, we previewed 4, 5, 6 of the biggest games for the week every single week, and we picked against the spread every single week. I'm gonna have to go find, I kept track, I think, in my notes. I'm gonna have to go find what my record was against the spread. I think we were around 40%, if I'm not mistaken. We were close to 500. We were pretty close to 500. We were above 40%. We were somewhere between like 40 and like 45% picking against the spread. I'm gonna have to go look and see what we were exactly, but we will be doing that again this year. We will be picking all games against not all games. Oh, that'd be crazy. We're going to be picking the biggest games of the week against the spread. We're going to be keeping track of it. We're going to see what our record is. So I think next week's episode, we will start that. We're going to hopefully do some previews of a couple of the games. I know USC plays week 0. I think they play San Jose State. I know North Carolina and TCU play each other. So there might only be like 3 games, but we'll still try and give our preview for that. So keep an eye out for that. As always, I appreciate you if you have made it this far. Thank you for listening. Do not forget to like, comment, subscribe, share. As always, we are here talking all things college football. Peace.